What does vaping do to the body? Is it bad? And if so, how bad? And how does it compare to regular old cigarette smoking? Same, better or worse? We'll answer all these questions in this video. Welcome to Healthy Habits, your go-to channel for all things wellness and lifestyle. Whether you are a long-time subscriber or stumbling upon healthy habits for the first time, I invite you to join me on this journey. Watch the entire video, and let's embark on a path towards a healthier, happier, and more vibrant you. When it comes to inhaling vapor or cigarette smoke, it's essential to grasp how these substances enter the body. Both involve inhaling oxygen, and understanding their paths can shed light on their effects. Vaping, which we'll discuss in detail, and cigarette smoking entail inhaling vapor or smoke, respectively. It's vital to comprehend the routes these substances take within the body to gauge their impact. As we delve into the topic of vaping, it's important to note that we'll focus on its effects, its potential harm, and how it compares to traditional cigarette smoking. Air can enter through the nose, which leads it into a structure known as the nasal cavity. The septum in the nasal cavity divides it into right and left sides, but air can easily pass through either. Alternatively, air can also enter through the mouth and the oral cavity. Both the nasal cavity and the oral cavity ultimately merge into a common area we commonly refer to as the pharynx or throat. As the vapor or air progresses down through the pharynx, it faces a critical juncture. It must choose between two paths, the posterior tube, often referred to as the food tube or esophagus, or the anterior tube, which is the trachea. It's fascinating to note that even in a cadaver, the trachea remains open. This design makes sense because we continually breathe, and the body has developed cartilaginous rings to keep the trachea and airways open. In contrast, the esophagus, responsible for transporting food, can collapse when not in use between meals without any issues. As we descend to the lower part, a critical juncture awaits us. What we see here primarily represents the right half. At this point, there's a choice to be made. The air can move left into the left lung or right into the right lung. This branching structure is what we refer to as bronchi. As we proceed, these bronchi further divide within the lung tissue into various bronchi types. As this branching continues, the structures become smaller, and we transition from bronchi to bronchioles. Finally, they lead to the formation of alveolar sacs composed of individual alveoli. This is a brief anatomy lesson on how air travels through the lung. The key emphasis here is on the alveolar sacs and alveoli because they are the thinnest, most delicate tissues within the lungs. In fact, they consist of just a single cell layer. This extreme thinness is crucial as it's where the vital exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the bloodstream occurs. It's worth noting that these alveoli and bronchioles are particularly susceptible to the effects of vaping. How does vaping function, you may wonder? Well, vaping originated with e-cigarettes, initially created as a milder alternative to traditional cigarettes. However, the technology behind vaping has undergone significant evolution in recent years. Modern vaping devices are larger, rechargeable, and equipped with a cartridge containing a liquid. This liquid is heated by passing it through an atomizer, leading to the vaporization of the liquid and the creation of the vapor, hence the term vaping. But the question remains, is inhaling this vapor harmful to the human body? The answer is, it can indeed be harmful. In recent years, hospitals have witnessed a surge in patients with acute lung injuries attributed to vaping. This condition is now termed e-cigarette or vaping product use-associated lung injury, or simply EVALI for the rest of this discussion. These patients presented symptoms that closely resembled pneumonia. However, diagnostic testing revealed no infectious agents like viruses or bacteria responsible for their symptoms. Instead, they all had one common factor: they had been vaping. So, the suspicion arose that something in the vaping cartridges or the substances being vaporized was causing harm to the lungs. Before we delve into the potential culprits within these cartridges, let's take a closer look at the symptoms experienced by these patients. Many of these patients exhibited symptoms such as fever, chills, a general sense of discomfort, coughing, shortness of breath, chest pain, and in some cases, hemoptysis, which is the medical term for coughing up blood. These symptoms are understandable when considering that inhaling foreign substances can affect lung tissue and result in symptoms indicative of a lung condition. However, as many as 80% of EVALI patients also exhibited gastrointestinal (GI) symptoms affecting the digestive tract. These symptoms included nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and general abdominal discomfort. Now, what might be causing these symptoms in EVALI as a whole? The challenge is that the vaping industry is not heavily regulated, meaning the ingredients used can vary significantly between manufacturers. Nevertheless, some common ingredients have been identified, including nicotine, known for its potential to cause substance dependence and addiction. Additionally, substances like propylene glycol and glycerol, classified as humectants, are used to maintain moisture in the vaping liquid. Other components found in vaping liquids are tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, CBD oils, and even vitamin E acetate. Furthermore, there are over 7,000 different flavors available, and some products have been found to contain trace amounts of metals like tin, nickel, chromium, manganese, and even arsenic. But are some of these ingredients more problematic than others? Have researchers discovered specific links to certain components? Yes, they have. Returning to the hospital scenario, when clinicians examined EVALI patients, they often observed symptoms like tachycardia, tachypnea, rapid heart rate and breathing, and low oxygen saturation. Radiological tests, such as chest X-rays and CT scans, revealed lung infiltrates or opacities, which are indicators of lung issues. These symptoms initially resembled pneumonia, leading clinicians to investigate further. In some cases, a procedure called bronchoalveolar lavage was conducted. This involves inserting a fiber optic camera into the respiratory passages, down to the trachea and into the deeper airways. A saline solution was then injected directly into the terminal airways, including bronchioles and alveoli, and subsequently aspirated for analysis. Although no pathogens were found, the majority of EVALI patients tested positive for vitamin E acetate and THC in this fluid. So, what should be done with this information about vitamin E acetate and THC? Is vitamin E typically a harmful substance? Not when used in lotions, creams, or ingested, but it's important to remember that the way substances are processed can differ significantly depending on whether they are ingested through the digestive system or inhaled through the airway and into the lung tissue. The primary concern is whether the oily, thickening substance, vitamin E acetate, found in vaping liquids, could be causing an inflammatory response within the respiratory system. Researchers are still investigating the exact mechanism behind these symptoms and the lung damage associated with vaping. However, due to the strong link between vitamin E acetate and EVALI, the CDC has advised against using products that contain this substance. They also recommend avoiding products containing THC because of its association with EVALI cases. To summarize, EVALI patients often present with symptoms resembling pneumonia, including fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, and sometimes coughing up blood. However, a significant number of patients also experience GI symptoms, such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Regarding the outcomes for patients with EVALI, up until February 2020, the CDC reported 2,807 hospitalizations, with 68 recorded deaths. This translates to a 2.4% fatality rate among EVALI patients. It's essential to clarify that this does not mean that 2.4% of all vapers will die, but rather that 2.4% of those diagnosed with EVALI may not survive. Most EVALI patients recover, although many receive antibiotics as a precaution while pneumonia is ruled out. Supportive therapies are also commonly used, with some patients benefiting from anti-inflammatory steroids. Supplemental oxygen is provided to those with severe symptoms, and in more critical cases, ventilation may be required. Patients typically experience noticeable improvements in their symptoms within 2 to 4 weeks, but long-term effects remain uncertain. Comparing vaping to traditional cigarette smoking, the medical community generally agrees that smoking is worse for health. However, there's more extensive research on the long-term effects of smoking compared to vaping. Clinicians typically recommend using established medications for nicotine dependence, but if a patient insists on an alternative, they might recommend vaping as a lesser evil. For individuals who have never smoked and do not plan to, the recommendation is to avoid vaping altogether. Young people, especially in junior high and high school, are increasingly drawn to vaping, raising concerns that it may serve as a gateway to cigarette smoking. Research indicates that vapers are more likely to try smoking, which is known to be even more harmful than vaping. In the end, the advice is to prioritize the health of your lungs and, if vaping is unavoidable, steer clear of products containing vitamin E acetate and obtain THC through legal, regulated means. Before we conclude today's video, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us on this journey towards better health and wellness. Your support means the world to us, and we're thrilled to have you as a part of our Healthy Habits community. If you found this video valuable, please consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it with friends and family who might benefit from it. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content. If you value the knowledge and insights we provide and would like to support our channel in a meaningful way, please consider making a donation. Your contribution, no matter how big or small, helps us continue our work, improve our content, and reach even more people. It's your support that keeps the wheels turning and motivates us to keep creating content that matters.